welcome back everyone to the Missoula Public Library. I'm Kelly Moore with Missoula County Extension. I'm the Family and Consumer Science Agent. And we're back to do pancakes tonight. I know pancakes sound like something kind of boring. You do those all the time. But I'm going to show you recipes for two different types of pancakes, one sweet and one savory. And one of the reasons why I chose pancakes for this month has to do with Mardi Gras. So it's kind of an interesting history of pancakes. If you ever go on YouTube, and who doesn't these days, we all do. That's where you have to go to see me for these classes. Tasting history is a great site. And I was talking to a friend the other day about what a great site is. It's just so much fun. He gives you the history of everything. He's tasting the food. Just very authentic reactions from him, and you'll love him. So I highly recommend you watch that, because we do like talking about food history in this class. It's really important to know where our food comes from, and it makes you appreciate it that much more. So in fact, the first Tuesday of this month was last week, and that was Pancake Day, and that has to do with Lent. And so usually people, the last night you could eat something really good before Lent and give up, and many times people will give up a food they love because that's a big sacrifice. So people would tend to eat a cake of some kind, and it was usually like a pan, very thin kind of cake. So that's where it comes from. So lots of people will eat pancakes every week. That's just a normal thing to do. It's no longer just for breakfast. You can have it for dinner as well. So pancakes are easy because they're just a few easy steps. The first one, always use quality ingredients. And that's very important because that's going to affect the final flavor and taste of your pancakes. You're going to usually use 2 bowls. You're going to mix dry ingredients together, and then you're going to mix the wet ingredients separately. When you add them together, that you don't want to overmix, because you want them to keep that light airiness that we like in a pancake. Sometimes you rest the batter, which is what we will do with the lemon ricotta pancakes. Resting the batter gives everything time to blend together and work. It gives time for the baking soda or the baking powder to react with the buttermilk, makes it more tender. You want to make sure the griddle is hot, or the frying pan, whatever you're using. And another one I've added that I think is really important is to use quality syrup. Okay? I know a lot of people have their own favorite syrup, and that's fine. I just like to use pure maple syrup. That's what I've always used, and I enjoy that flavor. Okay? You can certainly use a pancake mix. A lot of people do that. Here's a typical one, and this one I've had before. Tastes fine. Supposedly it has a little more protein in here, but you just mix with a little water, or you can use milk. But I like to get away from that when I have a little more time and use some other quality ingredients that are fresh. I notice a real difference in taste. There are also things you can use. Buttermilk is used in both of these recipes. Now, I know a lot of people maybe aren't familiar with buttermilk. I grew up in the South. Buttermilk was very popular. We had it a lot. It's great in recipes. It makes things have a little bit of a sour flavor, and it really helps to make things very tender and very easy to eat. If you don't want to buy the liquid buttermilk, you can buy this buttermilk blend. It's a powder form, and just mix it with water, I believe. So I have not tried that, but it's worth trying. It certainly has a longer shelf life than buttermilk. Typically there's some oil. There might be a little salt, and we're going to use this on our griddle to kind of keep things from sticking. Okay. Okay, I think that's probably what we needed to talk about to start with. The sweet pancakes are typically what everybody likes to start the morning with. I like these because I love lemon. I love the lemon flavor. in springtime, you usually think about lemons, okay? We're going to use a ricotta cheese. You might be familiar with that flavor, okay? Of course, if you look there, it's usually used in lasagna, so a lot of Italian dishes, but it's a very mild, it's a great flavor on its own. So we use a little bit of that today. We have our lemons. We're not going to use the juice. We are going to use the lemon peel, okay? So I'll show you how we're going to, what we're going to use that for in just a couple of minutes. And then our savory pancakes have cornmeal in them, which is kind of unusual, but it makes for a very nice flavor, a little bit more, a little heavier than your ricotta pancakes, but that way it's a savory. You can add a lot of different things in there. So we'll get to that in a second. Okay, so I've already pre-measured the dry ingredients, which is a little flour, baking powder, a little salt. So I have all those together. And I have sugar separately here because this recipe calls for putting the lemon peel into the sugar and the vanilla, and then mixing it in with the wet ingredients. So that's kind of unusual. I don't know why they did that, but we're going to make it and see if there is a real difference. There are hundreds of ricotta pancake recipes, so I encourage you to find your own. Okay? Just try out a few and see what you like best. So I have here about 1/4 cup of sugar, just regular granulated sugar. Okay, I'm going to take the lemon peel and just zest it right into the sugar. Okay. So this is pretty handy little thing here. Get all the peel off, and kind of want you to do it around the entire lemon. So it helps to use a lemon that's not, sometimes, you know, if you leave lemons sitting out for a while, they get really hard on the rind, so you don't want to use that. Use a fresh one. The lemon peel has the most flavor, so that's why a lot of recipes call for it. So if you were here, you could smell the lemon already, which is a nice smell. Okay. You don't want to use Meyer lemon in this recipe. That has a whole different flavor. So not a bad flavor, but it's just a little different than a regular lemon. So that's pretty much all the zest off of there. I've just put it into the sugar. So, and it also now calls to add your vanilla. So about 1.5 teaspoons. Let me see, here's my teaspoon. This is pure vanilla, so I'm just gonna pour it right into, this is going to be the bowl for our wet ingredients, okay? Okay, 1.5 teaspoons. There we go. Okay. Then I'm just going to take a spatula. It says you can use your fingers too. You just want to smash that all together so it's all incorporated. So the lemon and the vanilla gets mixed together. Okay. Well, it smells really great too. All right. Okay, now that we've smashed all that together, now we're going to add the other ingredients. We have our buttermilk, we have 3 eggs, and our ricotta that I've already measured out, 3/4 cup of ricotta. I like to use a whole milk ricotta. There is a low-fat one. You can use that if you like, it just depends. I just think this adds some really great flavor when it's the whole milk kind. I don't know of anything else you could substitute in this recipe, so anyway, okay. Now, I'm just going to mix that in with the sugar part here, and I'm going to pour the 1/4 cup of buttermilk. All right, and I'm going to crack 3 eggs. You can crack these separately. If kids are helping you, you want to kind of make sure it's in a separate bowl because that way you don't get the eggshell in there. These are brown eggs, but all eggs pretty much taste the same. Doesn't matter if they're the white eggs or brown eggs or whatever, it's just what your preference is. And these are large eggs. Okay. All right, so that's what I've got mixed up in this little bowl. I'm going to take the whisk, kind of whisk it together here. And then we're going to add it into the dry ingredients. And then we'll be ready to start cooking them. I try to use the farm fresh eggs because it's such a nice color. Any time of year that you get them, just that nice egg color. Okay, we'll just put that in here. Now, when we mix those two together, you want to make sure you mix them well, but not overly so. You don't want to beat it or anything like that because then you might end up with a tough pancake. So now I'm just going to fold it gently over and over. Always checking the recipe again to make sure we've added everything we need to. Okay. If once you're cooking them and it looks like that's a little too thick, then it's okay to add just a teeny bit of buttermilk extra, but make sure it's a very small amount, a couple of drops at a time. Okay. All righty. We do have a little bit of butter that I kind of melted, although it doesn't look melted anymore, but we're just going to make sure that gets mixed in there as well, as the recipe calls for. Okay. In the meantime, we've started our griddle up over there. It's getting hot. You can always tell if the griddle is ready by, we're going to drop a little bit of water on there. Okay. If it makes a sizzling sound, can you hear that? That pretty much means it's ready to go. Okay. Okay. Right. Stick that over there. So that's our cut of batter right here. I'm going to clean a little of this off now that we've talked about things you can use. We have some working room here. I like to use like a spatula and also like a ladle because that way all the pancakes are about the same size. So an ice cream scoop works well too because these are kind of nice if you make them a little bit smaller. There we go. So about that size. Okay. I think we have just a little chunk of butter here that didn't get quite mixed in well. We'll stir that around a little bit more. Okay. These taste so good and so sweet, you really don't need a whole lot of syrup with these. That's kind of the nice thing. Okay. I'm going to churn this up and adjust a little bit more. Okay. When you start to see bubbles in the top, then it's time to turn them over. But you can kind of just, once they get a little bit more solid on the side where you don't just stick your spatula under there and get all the batter, then you know you can turn them at that point too. Okay. So if you have a lot of people to feed, it's nice to have a griddle. Okay. But you can also keep these warm in the oven too while you're waiting for them to all get done. Okay, so while those are cooking, I'm gonna get some of these things out of the way, and then we can get started putting our other pancake together. Now this pancake is called a corn cake, and I've made these a lot. They are very versatile. You can have them any time of the day. I've made them a lot for like brunch or in the evening, they're good. I also make like a fruit salsa that can go over the top of them, so it's kind of a nice addition, which makes them savory. We have cornmeal, so about 1.5 cups of cornmeal. This is a medium grind, but you can use a finer grain. I just like the way the coarseness, it just has a better flavor to it. So again, cornmeal might be something that everybody's not as familiar with, but again, growing up in the South, we eat a lot of cornbread. So we had a lot of that. Sorry, I'm going to turn this up just a little bit more again. Just have to kind of keep an eye on it. You don't want it to be too hot or not hot enough. It's kind of hard to get that happy medium. This recipe calls for a couple of different vegetables in here, which is kind of unusual. Corn. So I've made these with fresh corn. It's kind of hard to get that this time of year. So I'm just using some frozen, but it's not frozen. It's kind of been left out just a little bit to thaw. And this is the white corn. It doesn't matter whatever variety you get. I think this is a little sweeter. And a zucchini. So we're going to grate some zucchini. And now you can pretty much find zucchini any time of the year. Okay, I'm going to wash this off. You want to make sure it's clean. Right. And pretty much a smaller size zucchini should work fine. Okay, those are getting close to needing to be turned, so that's good. I'm just going to hand grate these. You can do it in a food processor too if you want. So it's just pretty much doing like this. Zucchini have a lot of water in them, so a lot of recipes ask you to kind of squeeze out the water, but it's not necessary in this one. All right. And we're going to need about, let's see, about 1.5 cups of grated zucchini. So this should just about fill the bill. Okay, well, I'm going to stop for 1 second. You almost need a pancake cooker too, don't we? Okay, I'm going to turn it over, so see how nice and golden brown those are on that side. Here we go. That's about how you want them to look. And then they're starting to puff up a little bit. So it's all that baking soda and buttermilk working together. Right. Even if your kids say they don't like zucchini, I mean, when you blend it in with a little corn and you put this fruit on the top, they're going to love it. Okay. Yep, so that's about how it's going to look, that grated in the bowl. And you want to be careful when you get towards the end, because if you've ever grated your fingers, you only do that one time. And that's probably not too good to have that in your food either. All right, so I usually stop and I'll keep that piece and I'll stick it in something else later. Okay. Because we've got about 1.5 cups, just eyeballing it, that looks pretty close. Okay, so we've got those two ingredients. I'm going to multitask here again for a minute. I'm going to see if these are done on the bottom. They do look done. Right around here, the batter's not oozing or anything, so we know that one's good. I'm going to set that there, and we can start putting some other ones on. If you look at this one on the side, that's what I mean by kind of oozing. It's just not quite ready yet. So, and if kids want to make a special shape for whatever, it makes a lot more fun for them to eat these too. Okay, I'll just keep going on and adding a few more. These are great without syrup. You don't have to have syrup because we're going to do something a little different with these. Okay, now you can tell that's ready. See all the way around. It's not too soft. This doesn't make a whole lot of batter, so if you have a lot of people to feed, I would double this recipe, because we are making them pretty small too. Okay. All right. So this recipe is the same thing. You put your dry ingredients together. So I've got the cornmeal. I've got the flour here. I'm going to pre-measure it. I'm going to dump that in as well. Okay. We're going to need a little bit of salt. A teaspoon of salt. And I have my baking soda and baking powder here. I always carry that. You never know when you're going to need that. Okay. So we're just going to dump that into the cornmeal. Okay. And I'm going to grab a spoon. Okay. Get that all mixed together. All right. Okay, this one calls for 2 eggs, which I have in the bowl right here. So I'm going to go ahead and crack those. Okay. Some of them are a little tougher than others to crack. That is a very tough egg. Okay. Then we've got 1/3 cup of oil. You can use corn oil or regular oil. Either one's good. I wouldn't use olive oil in this recipe, and I use olive oil for about everything, but it would add a little bit of a flavor. So I would say use the more neutral oils. 1.5 cups of buttermilk, let's see. Guess we'll have to measure that out. And here's our cup over here. So we'll use this again. So if you make pancakes a lot, really this is not a whole lot of buttermilk to have to worry about using up. Okay, and of course we want to use a liquid measure when we're measuring liquid, not the dry cup measure, so it can be accurate. All right, so I've got the eggs here. We're going to kind of beat those up a little bit and add our buttermilk. And our oil together there. All those things together. Okay, well that's sitting there, it's time to churn. I just have that feeling. Okay, it's looking really good. All right, now this is considered our wet ingredient too because that's going to go right into our liquid. And I'm going to put the corn in there as well. Okay, so it kind of makes a little thicker of a batter there. Okay. And I almost forgot. That's why you get too distracted. You forget about what you've put in your dry ingredients. So we're going to put our 1/2 teaspoon of salt right here. Just go ahead and dump that in. All right, 1/2 teaspoon of soda, baking soda. Not all pancakes have baking powder and baking soda, so you want to make sure you kind of replace your baking soda like every year because it loses some of its capabilities if you keep it for too long. You'll always just put it down the sink because it's good to kind of make the sink smell better if it's outdated. Okay, now, so I think we've got all our dry ingredients together. Yep, so now we're going to put this into the dry ingredients. And then just kind of carefully stir that together. Yeah, trying to incorporate all of that cornmeal, so because you would hate to get a pancake that has this lump of dried stuff at the bottom. So make sure everything's all stirred together. Okay, and that's ready to go. If you are kind of short on time, you can always make this batter up just a little bit ahead of time, keep it refrigerated, ready to go. Okay, that batter's going to be ready for us. Okay. That one, those both need a little bit of extra time. So typically at this point, you put butter on there, which you certainly could do that if you want, but we are going to just skip and do the powdered sugar, because that's kind of a nice thing for these pancakes. You could put a little bit of lemon yogurt on there. Blueberries and lemon, to me, just go together very well. So we're going to top them off with a little bit of blueberry. All right, you could put a little bit of sour cream or whipped cream or any of that stuff. Okay, and then also we have another lemon for a good reason. We're going to get our zester again, and I like to just put a little lemon zest on the top, make it look nice, and then just give a little extra lemon flavor. All right. And then if you have a lemon that we call a naked lemon, you can just put that in your refrigerator and use it to get the juice out of at some point. Okay. There we go. That one we're going to keep there for a couple more minutes. We'll finish these off on the grill, and then we'll be ready to put the other ones on. Okay. All right, so there's your lemon ricotta pancakes. And those will be nice to taste. You could certainly use syrup if you would like. It is not necessary. Okay, that still needs a couple more minutes here. All right, and I'm going to clean this ladle out so we can use it again. This way is nice too because our griddle is all heated up. We don't have to reheat it or do any of that stuff. All right, in fact, you've got a little bit of space over here. Let's go ahead and try one out here. Here we go. These are going to take just a little bit longer than these pancakes did. More powdered sugar. You can also put like a blueberry sauce or any kind of fruit for that matter. Raspberries go well with it too. And then I can start filling up the spaces here. I'm going to make these about the same size as we did the lemon pancakes. Okay. All right. Tell you what, cooking, you always have a space to clean up here, don't we? I did spray this on the grill to begin with, and you really shouldn't have to do it again. Oh, it's kind of a non-stick surface, so works out nicely. Obviously, this batter makes a whole lot more than the lemon ricotta, so usually one recipe is plenty enough to feed a lot of people. Okay. Also, I've made like a fruit salsa. If you just look again in your favorite recipe site and look up fruit salsa, it's very easy to make. I usually make it in the morning. By the time we eat it, it's got a lot of flavor, and you're ready to go. You can make it as spicy as you want, or not. I'm going to just crank up this a little bit more to get the cornmeal. Probably takes a little bit longer to cook. Okay. Yeah, and also probably not the best idea to use a metal spatula on this. Probably some of you are going to notice that right away. You just don't want to scratch that surface. Okay. These are great for the summertime because if you have lots of zucchini in your garden and corn, you can put peppers in there, onions, whatever, so just kind of make it your own. All right. You can tell these are starting to rise up a little bit, so they are getting there. Just takes a while. You can't rush them too much. This is the last one of the lemon ricotta ones. Same thing for these when they start bubbling up on the sides. Okay. There we go. So let's see, we made about 8 pancakes with that one recipe. So, which is plenty for 1 or 2 people. All right, now, I think this one's ready to turn. So just take it and flip, nice and gold on the top. Same for the others. All right, now we can fill up that empty space. All right. Oops, got that a little close there. These you can keep in the refrigerator for probably a good, not quite a week, but pretty close, 3 or 4 days for sure, before they start losing a little bit of their flavor. I've not tried to freeze them before, so I'll have to try that, see how they work. Now, when you have these, I would plate these a little bit differently. Usually I would do like 1 or 2 pancakes per plate instead of putting them all in a big platter. These you want to especially make sure they're done because having a gooey bite of cornmeal is not too pleasing. There we go. Like I say, you could put syrup on these, but I just kind of like the other flavor of the salsa on there. And there we go, there's 3. I think we'll cover up this space before we walk away here. Okay, so now these are all nice and great color. This is when I just add the little bit of salsa. I have mango, a little bit of cilantro, onion, a little pineapple. You can always put different fruits. It's a good thing to make in the summer. Peaches taste really good in here. A little jalapeno, a little red pepper. So there you go. That's corn cakes and fruit salsa. So I'm going to just keep making these and wish you could be here to taste them. But anyway, that's our pancakes. So hopefully we will see you next time. Thanks for watching.